that you make, similar to the search engine world, intimacy is what defines this reaction rate, if you will. The ability to create something, share it to people who are interested, and get them to do something with it in a tangible way. So the benefits of creating and maintaining and nurturing a robust social SEO campaign, it really speaks to every single type of metric that, regardless of what your business is or who you are in this industry, is of value to you, and it's really the goal of this whole effort. It starts with immediate search visibility. That catalyzes and transitions into increased traffic and conversions. That leads to increased word-of-mouth advertising on your behalf, remembering that the majority of the people that you're being introduced to through social media are people who have never heard of you before. They're only interested because someone who they know told them about you. That word-of-mouth advertising increases your brand awareness overall, and all of these elements combined increase your consumer loyalty and the level of engagement that you're able to command on any given basis. So when executed correctly, and I'll show you this in a number of other examples moving into the presentation, you're able to create this really cool, never-ending cycle of introducing your name and your brand to new audiences who are able to become return customers, and every time that you create something, they're able to leverage their social connections in a way where you are always able to introduce yourself to new audiences and get them to become repeat customers. An example with this, just go back one sec, to show the practical value of social SEO. This is one particular article that I wrote about 2 years ago for a well-known, authoritative publisher within the industry, Search Engine Journal. And as you can see, I didn't get a tremendous amount of shares, less than 300, but I was able to capture a tremendous amount of interest. Over 5,000 people read the article. When you combine that interest, the volume of interest, with the authority that this particular platform has, you can see that even when I search for a long-tail key phrase, but it's certainly not as niche as it could be, this article still ranks on the first page of Google today. Now, what I really am saying here is not that the engagement alone allows us to stand 2 years later on the first page. It's the complement of the authority of the brand with the volume of interest I was able to command. So social SEO in itself is not the end-all, be-all solution for increasing your visibility. It's just a primary aspect of the entire SEO wheel. Continue on. So to bring this to a more theoretical value, or to highlight an example from a theoretical perspective, that is, let's take a fictitious company called Widgets R Us. Let's pretend that Widgets R Us is a national brand. They are an authority on the services that they offer their clients. They're recognized. They have great reviews. Their products are really sturdy and durable. And because they are a recognized brand for what it is that they do, they already rank for some of the terms that are dedicated to their services, the names of their services. They own and develop the must-have social media platforms, your Twitter, your Google+, LinkedIn, Facebook. Let's say they even have, I don't know, MySpace, Pinterest, Snapchat, whatever it is that you want to throw in there. And their followers comprise of not just their customers, but people who are similar to the customers, thought influencers within the industry, consumer advocates, bloggers, and even some of their competitors. So they're speaking to an entire field of people who may not necessarily understand who they are directly, but are interested in what it is that they do. So they come out with a brand new product. Let's call it Widget X. Widget X is going to trump the competition as far as the value of their services versus Widgets R Us. And because they're developing a new product and, of course, want to make money off of this, they develop a series of content to market and advertise these products. Let's say they create a how-to series of videos that show you how to use Widget X in multiple environments for multiple demographics. They also create a series of blog articles that perhaps go into some tips and advice for how these are best applied in a particular situation. And let's say they even create an infographic that goes into the historical perspective of how their services have evolved into this state-of-the-art Widget X. So they create all this really great branded and non-branded content, and they push it through their social media channels. And because their social media channels have been developed over time, because they have a large base of quality, real followers who are interested in what it is that they're doing, they are able to get a substantial ROI or response from this particular effort. So, Now that we have a better understanding of how this works from a theoretical perspective, let's go to the history of social SEO and how it's actually been developed. The definition was actually created from a patent that Google created and bought back in 2011 called social search. It allows them to use relationship connections in a social network to better answer your individual questions, to better align with the statements that you use when searching, and to give you a better overall user experience. And in this patent, they define trust as a means of measuring intimacy. And again, intimacy is consumer reaction. So, how social SEO works. At its core, social SEO is all about influencing influencers to engage with your content and your brand. When followers interact with content, they're in a sense recommending it to other people as well as to search engines. And it's through this recommendation that rankings really can improve at scale. Now, I'm about to get into some information, and maybe you have heard that social SEO is not real, that social signals do not actually influence value as far as rankings or traffic is considered. Maybe you even are a fan of articles or platforms like Moz, and Moz will tell you that we know every single point of Google's 500-point algorithm. That is not the case. But from testing and continuous testing across multiple platforms, from myself, Anvil, as well as other reputable agencies, we do know that it's social media that's taking the lead as far as influence and visibility and rankings. And of course, it makes a lot of sense that Google's own product has the highest level of influence. So whether or not you actually build out a Google Plus profile and engage with your audiences every single day, maintaining that obviously has a significant value when trying to maximize opportunities dedicated to visibility, traffic, and conversions. So, as I kind of just touched upon, didn't I just read an article from Matt Cutts or somebody saying that social SEO is not real or that signals do not influence SEO in any way, shape, form, or fashion? There is a history of inexperienced SEOs hearing a snippet of something, running to the blogosphere, talking about it, and getting other people to believe in what it is that they're saying. But it's not the case, and there is a long history going back to 2010 where either Matt Cutts has directly said, or people on his behalf have said, that particular forms of content are no longer valuable in terms of increasing your overall online authority. This was the case with infographics in 2010, press releases in 2011, and then more recently in 2013, 2014, with guest blogs and social shares, specifically Google Plus ones. But it's not as bad as it sounds. Just breathe easy, take what you hear with a grain of salt, and test it out for yourself and see if it's really that true, or if it's not going to be valid as a part of your overall efforts, a valid means of your overall efforts. All forms of content can and should be used. So don't hesitate to build out an infographic, don't hesitate to build out videos, blog articles. The form does not dictate your success. The level of originality, credibility, authenticity, and intelligence, that is what will dictate your success, not the form or the tool that you're using in order to attract new audiences to your brand. As Matt Cutts says himself, an infographic may be neat, but if the information it's based on is simply wrong, then it's misleading people. Now let's kind of take a step back there and think about what that really means. It's easy to think of Google as a really convenient means of information, but they're business. They're business, and you're their clients, the online individual consumer or user. And in a capitalistic society, I, as a consumer, I have a choice. I don't have to work at Google. I can go to Bing, I can go to Yahoo, I can go to the oh-so-formidable DuckDuckGo, but I go to Google because they are what allows me to have the very best online experience. They give me exactly what I'm looking for 9 times out of 10, and they're designed to do that. Well, if you think of what the World Wide Web was, or the internet was back in the 90s, or even the early millennia, it was a vulgar place. You really couldn't go to a search listing and not have the risk of getting spammed, of having a million pop-up ads just plague your entire screen. Remember that, AOL? And even more so, there was porn, there was viruses, there was all these things that didn't connect with your original search intentions. So what did? They came out, and they told people like myself to go tell your clients to build their websites in X, Y, and Z ways. And we have a really awesome internet today because of people like myself telling businesses to convert in ways that Google has loosely told us to do so. And if we as strategists put all of our eggs in one basket. If we only use infographics, if we only use social sharing, if we only use blog articles in our campaigns or in our strategies, then you as the consumer are getting gypped. You're not getting the full experience that you should be getting, and that's what Google is demanding. They want everything out there, but they want it to be built in a way that is relevant, intelligent, and of quality. An example of how this is not true, that infographics don't rank, is a company I used to work for in Boston, a content development firm called Brafton. They created this 5 years ago, and it still ranks for a very vague term, content and SEO. That's number 3. And that's incognito too. It's not just my own personal history. SEO joke doesn't go far. Next slide, please. So, why does social SEO matter? Search has evolved, and it continues to evolve. Results are no longer determined by individual or singular key terms. Today's results are based on a plethora of data points, including who you are as an individual, who you're connected to, where you're searching from, who you follow, and of course the type of content that you seem to frequent more often than not. So this dynamic is exactly why social SEO is such a profound factor in today's campaign efforts. The desire to provide from Google personalized search results plus the natural social dynamics of the web is exactly why social SEO is a relevant topic today, and it's meaningful and it's real. Consider this. In just 1 minute of listening to me talking, over 2 days worth of video content has been uploaded. Over 2 million independent searches have been performed over Google. Over 100,000 tweets are being sent, some of them in here. And almost 350 unique blog articles have been published in just WordPress alone, just one singular CMS platform. So going back kind of really to the introduction of this presentation, it's all about connecting with other people, giving them what it is that they're looking for in a way that is relevant and meaningful to their level of understanding, and allowing them to share that with other people who are looking for something similar. So I used to be a philosophy major for quite some time before I switched about a dozen times later. And the if-then statement is a core part of philosophy, but it's really become a core part of my methods when approaching SEO, social media, so on and so forth. If authority used to be built based on quality and quantity of inbound links, then when it comes to social SEO, intimacy is built by improving the quality and quantity of your social connections. And I'll read something directly from their patent, Google's patent. The quality of your connections is most important. Focus on what matters and measure your social PR strategy in order to improve the quality of connections at your website and social networks. So just like links used to be the strongest way to advance your rankings, and you could build a website that had, as long as it had 10,000 more links than your competitor, you were going to trump them in the search listings. Now that doesn't apply. It's about the quality of links that you have. You don't necessarily need to have 10,000 links in order to rank or outrank your competitors. You need to have a few thousand links that are directed to authoritative sources who are relevant to your audiences and are offering credibility to your site. The same thing goes with social media. You can't build 20,000 Twitter followers based off of team followback. That's not going to do anything for your brand awareness. Those signals that are being sent are not of quality to Google or in Google's eyes, and you're not going to get anything out of that. So it's all about taking the time and investing the energy to build out people who are real, who care about what you do, or events or circumstances that relate to what it is that you do, and getting them to actually create a meaningful dialogue back with you that expands beyond just one tweet or one Facebook post. Continuing on. So there are traditional areas of optimization that apply to social media profiles. Of course, each social profile is unique in itself, but in general, you can still optimize from an SEO perspective the About section, the headlines, related websites, interests, images, lists, and any other particular field that allows you to insert images, text, or links. Some people are writing this down, so I'll just give you a second.
Will you publish these slides?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to tell you at the end, guys, but these slides will be sent out to anybody who registered, and we'll make them available on social as well, just to let you know.
Next slide, please. Some of the ways that you can measure your success, some of the metrics to look at are, of course, organic traffic, the level of rankings that your individual forms of content are able to command, similar to the article that I showed you before, the volume of shares that you're able to receive per form of content, as well as the overall volume of shares your website's able to attract and receive, and of course, social referrals from Google Analytics. Next slide. Choosing the right tools. There are literally thousands of free, excuse me, I'm going through puberty. There are thousands of free and paid tools that are available at your disposal. These are the ones that I find to be most meaningful and the easiest to approach without having to get some sort of training or certification around it. Hootsuite, Facebook Insights, and to me, I mean, there's really nothing better than Google Analytics. I've worked with multiple analytic tracking platforms from BrightEdge to SEMrush, Raven Tools, so on and so forth. And in my opinion, they all have an API that takes the data from Google Analytics, which is a free platform. And those APIs have deltas, which often skew the data. So when you're looking at SEMrush or other tools, you'll notice more often than not that the data is really positive. Traffic's at an all-time high each and every single month. But when you look at Google Analytics, it's not really the case. So for me, this is free. It's very easy to be able to approach without a tremendous amount of experience or training. It can be customized to meet your specific demands as far as its dashboard. And while it's not 100% accurate, it is the most accurate platform that we have. Next slide. So to conclude, setting up social platforms to enhance and support brand and site will only accelerate every single metric that is of importance when it comes to the concept of SEO, from visibility all the way down to qualified conversions. Ensuring that all properties speak to and connect with each other is the only way that you're going to be able to maximize results, all the way from word-of-mouth advertising to, again, qualified traffic and conversions. So if I'm a website, I'm here, and I have my Twitter over here, and I have my Facebook here, and my LinkedIn here, and every single one of these external platforms are connected so that if I'm the individual user, I can jump around as I please but still be around your brand. And to go into some examples, another example of rankings. This is another article that I wrote for the same publisher, Create Mobile Video Ad Campaigns Like a Boss. And you can see you don't need a tremendous amount of shares. And this counters the argument that this only works for larger brands. You don't need to be P&G or Duracell, which is going to be my next example, in order for this to work for you. You just need to spend some time each week to build up your followers and create something that is so meaningful that your followers will want to share that with their friends and family. And when you're able to do that at scale, you can see that your content will have the opportunity to be introduced to new potential consumers, whether it's a weekend or 6 months or 2 years. That opportunity wouldn't exist if you weren't doing this. And that's important to know. Next example is really about consumer reaction. So I had the opportunity to work for Duracell for quite some time. They decided to spring on us a series of commercials that they had created without really letting us know, and it was just for their YouTube channel. It was leveraging their partnership with the NFL, specifically a player on the San Francisco 49ers, Patrick Willis. And when they gave it to us, I mean, the titles were Power, Fight the Power. That was their slogan at that time. And that's it. That was the title. They had about 2,000 views. So what we did was set them up with a pretty rigorous social engagement calendar that saw them publish relevant forms of content that related to this concept as well as this campaign that they were running at that time, the Fight the Power. And we had them publish it across their social media platforms at least 3 times a day for 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, it went from 2,000 views to 2 million. Now, again, that is about putting the videos on the right platform, having an authoritative platform to host your content from, whether it's your website or a third party. It's being able to optimize the things that you can optimize and are still of value, such as the title, using particular keywords that align with consumer behavior and recognition, as well as search volume, and being able to share it on multiple occasions through multiple platforms to the right audiences. And when you do that, you can see that the results can be on your side in next to no time. So whether you're Duracell or you're the local attorney, these guys started brand new at some time. They had to take the time and energy and the investment to build up their followers to get to 64,000. But I'm an individual, and I have 15,000 people on my Twitter account without really doing anything, and there's no reason why each and every one of you guys can't do the same exact thing. It takes 15 minutes of your time each and every single week, and when you're able to commit to that again over time, you're going to be able to leverage eventually 5,000, 10,000, and more people to work on your behalf, speak on your behalf, and get other people to come to your brand as a first-time customer. So that is the concept of social SEO. Any questions? Yes?
So when you talk about getting that content on or to a platform, how are ads judged if people are clicking through?
So that's a good question, and I'm referring to organic content, nothing that would be paid. So I'm assuming that you're referring to something like a Facebook paid ad or a dark post. Well, in that example alone, social media platforms, specifically Facebook, do allow you, if you pay the right amount of money, to take those ads that would traditionally look like a paid ad and put it in an organic section so that people think that this is an article being shared by their friends and family rather than being perpetuated by the client or a brand. So, of course, the strategy is going to differ per platform. But if you have the opportunity and you're interested in using paid devices to accelerate your message, then see if those particular opportunities exist. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
You had a question, sir.
So, going back to a two-part question.
Sure.
Going back to first principles is search engine optimization is I want my website to appear first during searches on Google. You're saying that it doesn't necessarily require links back to my website for credibility of my brand to raise that level?
Not that it doesn't.
Okay.
It's just not the links are no longer the king when it comes to increasing rankings.
So it's like third down.
It's not necessarily third down. It's complementive of social sharing links. So think about it this way. Social links allow you to get immediate visibility for particular content that you've created. That visibility eventually is going to wear off. The links, contextual links that come from actual authoritative third-party websites, that's what allows you to anchor your authority in the space that you're competing within. So if Search Engine Journal didn't have the type of contextual links that they have, my article would not still be up. It would have been up for who knows, a weekend to 6 months without that type of authority, but it wouldn't be permanent the way that it is today. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So it's a short-term and a long-term approach combined.
So here's my second question. My second question is that I have a client and they use Pardot.
Okay.
And I checked with Marketo, it does the same thing, is that when you put out information and there are link backs, the link backs go to Pardot and to Marketo, they don't go back to your website. So your SEO isn't influenced that much.
Because
on your
this
website,
platform
because
is taking the equity from you.
So that's bad, right?
Well, I mean, it's not good,
Yeah.
right? You're
Is
not
there a
going
way
to
to
be
get around that?
You're not going to be penalized in the sense that you're getting a tremendous amount of spammy, malicious links to you, and therefore you're seen as building out links in a malicious way. But somebody else is getting the value, similar to YouTube is getting the value when you post a video on YouTube opposed to instead of your website. So, you have to work within the confinements of or the parameters of your opportunities. If you're not able to work with a platform that isn't able to do that, then it's better than not working with it at all, if that makes sense. But as far as transferring the link equity from them to you, that's not really possible unless you manually go out and get these links on your own and they're actually pointing to your website. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of work.
It's a tremendous amount of work, which is why we exist. But to that, manual or link building, maybe some of you are familiar with the new term, is really called link earning today. And if you think about traditional PR, that's really what link earning is all about. It's about you identifying thought influencers who are similar to what it is that you do, sending them an email or giving them a phone call, trying to stay on their radar, giving them content that they actually want and like, getting them to publish it on their site, and actually getting them to link back to you. That's a huge effort, especially when you think about doing that at scale. So it is very time consuming, but the value is there if you're really serious about anchoring particular terms that are going to drive conversions for your brand or your clients.
So my challenge is I got to convince my client that what they've been doing for 5 years successfully is not necessarily the best option.
Well, you as the strategist, all your job is to do is to point out the paths of opportunities and let the client make their own decisions, right? So it's not really on you that they paid for Marketo 5 years ago.
I pay for it every month.
Every month.
It's like $1,000 a month, and it's Pardot, but
Sure.
I'm going.
Sure.
Give me the $1,000.
Well, maybe we can converse after this and I can help you out with that. Question?
What do you do when you're sort of dealing with platforms that have more authority and you're trying to improve your search results, but say, for example, this is actually the case with one of the people I work with. There's a movie of the same name, and so Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb and all of these other sort of movie-focused platforms are taking up like the first like 3 pages.
Yeah.
So they can't even, like the closest they can get to is like the 3rd page. And so I was just wondering if you had any strategies for dealing with something like that, where there's all of these platforms that have more authority and, you know, there's a film of the same name, and so these platforms are coming up first because of that.
So that's a pretty loaded question. So I'm on the same page with you. You're talking about creating content that uses or leverages a particular name or phrase that is already out there, already exists, and is being owned or positioned under much more authoritative sources, correct? And you're saying, how do I get my guy to rank when all these monsters exist and already own authority around it?
And especially in terms of like movies specifically in a way, because it's not relevant to how, like, so for wrongful conviction or like, you know, if you're Googling that, a lot of times it's like films about people that have been convicted wrongfully.
Sure.
But if you're actually someone that's been wrongfully convicted and you're looking for services, like, you have to go to the 3rd page to find that versus movies about that.
Yeah, the term in itself, wrongful conviction, is ambiguous, to your point. Which is why more and more these days, people like myself are not only recommending, but they're building out comprehensive strategies that are dedicated to more long-tail key phrasing. That is just the concept. How do you do that? It takes a lot of research. You have to really be in tune with your consumer audience or your target audience, and you have to understand what it is how they think, opposed to the way that you think about your services. What are the specific questions they're using? What are the specific statements that they're saying into their phones? And then aligning with that terminology opposed to the more generic form. And it is through that method that you will be able to win. And this has nothing to do with social SEO, but it has everything to do with what you guys are asking. You know, rankings, being ranked for generic or competitive terms, that was something that you had to do in 2008 to 2010 or before in order to be successful. There are so many ways to get conversions and to get to the right type of traffic that you're looking for, whether it's through social media, whether it's through long-tail key phrase content development, or a number of other tactics out there. So don't get hung up and don't get stressed out if you're not seeing the type of rankings that you believe that you need. You don't need to be ranked in order to get conversions, traffic, so on and so forth. Just build out a thorough content strategy that leverages the specific question statements that your audiences are using in order to align with their behavior, their motivations, and their search intent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. That's actually really helpful.
You can also do a series of content like what is the real meaning of wrongful conviction, or how does wrongful conviction apply beyond movies, whatever it may be. Just capitalizing on your struggles, but defining it in a way where you're really able to answer your own question and other questions that other people will have who are like-minded to you. Does that make sense? Any other questions? Yes?
You talked about optimizing social profiles and optimizing what you are able to on
Sure.
YouTube videos and things like that. Specifically for YouTube, do you have any favorite resources with a guide on optimizing that content? Because their resources I find really confusing.
Sure.
And not super helpful.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries at all. I've written a number of blog articles, so after this, if you go to Julian Connor's, my LinkedIn page, you can see those. But to give you the answer, and to save you time, there's only like 5 things in YouTube that you can or should be optimizing. That's the title. That's the description. You want to make sure that you have a particular link in the description that allows users to go to whatever relevant landing page is being discussed in your video. You can optimize the tags. So that's not going to increase visibility, but it is going to put you with other like-minded individuals when you see the related videos column in your sidebar. And the transcripts. A lot of people will take the easy approach of allowing YouTube to automatically create transcripts on your behalf. But if you actually look at how YouTube is interpreting words, a lot of times they jumble the words because they don't really understand what is being said. So you got gibberish. on your hands, and that's what Google is reading, and that's what Google's indexing. So take the 15 minutes or so to just write out your own transcripts. It's time consuming, but the value is definitely there when it comes to indexing terms that you're trying to build authority around. Does that answer?
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, I am very much available for all of you. My business card is up there, but you can also find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, so on and so forth. And if a question comes to mind after this event, please do not hesitate to get a hold of me. I promise I respond to you within the day. And I just can't tell you enough how grateful I am to have you here today. So thank you very, very much.
Great job, Julian. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for coming out today. We really, really appreciate your attendance. As I mentioned, we'll make all the slides available to you. I think that most of you, I have your email addresses captured on. If not, it will definitely be on our website on the events page. Another thing I just wanted to point out is that our CEO, Kent Lewis, is going to be speaking at Mindshare next week on Wednesday night at Trader Vic's. And his topic is going to be on building your online brand by social media in just 15 minutes daily. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know. And finally, everybody from Anvil, raise your hand. So we have lots of our team members here today. So if you have any questions about Anvil or anything that we do, please feel free to ask Julian or anybody else in the crowd. And let us know if you have any questions. We hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
You get some free drink. So this is just Joe.